Hey George, so what's going on here?
So we have some rumbling noises from the front tire.
Was it happening at high speeds or low speeds?
Every speed.
Okay, what do you think it is?
It's definitely a bearing noise.
Okay.
So we're gonna take the wheel off and inspect the bearing and see if we can tighten it up or have to replace it.
Okay. So how are we gonna check the bearing?
Well, first I got the truck jacked up.
Okay.
Got our jack stand under there. Got some tools set up.
Okay, there's the jack stand.
Yep.
On the frame, making sure we're safe. Okay.
Oh yeah, there it is. There's a little click in it.
So essentially you're able to wiggle the wheel.
Yep.
And it moves on the axle, which is most likely the bearing hub.
Yep.
Which is right behind that cap right there, right?
Yeah, the outer bearing is behind here, and then there's an inner bearing on the inside of the hub.
But we might be able to just tighten that big nut that's behind that cap there, and
yep,
it'd be good to go.
Yep.
Okay, so let's try that.
So
Great.
We're gonna pull the lug nuts off. We need, I believe it's like a 19 millimeter, and we're gonna have at it.
Okay, cool. So any flathead screwdriver, and basically all hubs are very similar to this.
Yeah, this is just a grease cap. I'm gonna undo our cotter key.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like it's bad. It wouldn't, if it was bad, it wouldn't sound that smooth.
Well, it would have probably some notching in it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna loosen it up just a hair. Yep, she's toast. You see all the metal embedded into the bearing.
Oh yeah.
So something definitely happened there.
Yep.
That one you can see the bearing's totally gone.
Yep.
Okay, so the next thing we have to do is we have to pull the caliper, and then we can remove the hub.
Yep. Okay.
That.
There's a little bit of scrape right there, huh?
Yep, there's like different impurities of metal embedded into it. But, when you order the hub from the auto parts store, it'll come with all the bearings and new parts anyway. So.
Oh, it comes. This whole part all of that comes out.
All that comes as one piece.
This whole thing is not part of the hub, though. No.
Yeah, this is part of the hub.
Oh, the whole thing comes.
The whole
new.
thing's a hub. Yep.
So you can buy the bearing and the hub, or the hub bearing is all one part.
It's all one piece.
There you go.
So
okay, George. So we got a brand new wheel bearing there, right?
Yep.
And what are we doing now?
We're packing it full of grease.
And it looks like you're pressing the grease on from your hand.
So we have a open ridge. So what I'm doing is working the grease around to pack it into that bearing surface. And it'll just keep pushing it in until it starts squeezing out.
So it's literally every empty space in the entire bearing is full of grease.
Yep. So I didn't move the race yet because I want to make sure I get it packed as much as I can.
There it's coming through, right?
Yep. There it goes. See it? Yep.
Now our hub bearing is set up so that they have a nipple so that you can just do this and it squeezes all the way through everything?
Nope. This is what you have to do is hand pack them. So it doesn't have a grease erk. Grease erk is the little fitting where you can put a grease gun on the end of it.
Yeah. And on something that has that, then that's the thing that squeezes the grease through all the bearings.
Yes, it pushes it in. Okay. To lighten it up just so I can try to pop it out like that. See what I mean?
Yep.
Trying to save the seal.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the only part we want to not damage.
Yeah.
The rubber part. There we go.
So once again, same thing. Fill up the gap with the oil, with the grease.
Yeah, I'm just doing that to make sure that it keeps pressure on the seal.
Yep. And I'd fill that whole gap up too, huh?
I don't want to fill it up too much.
And now you're going to pack the front bearing?
Yep. We'll pack in the front bearing.
Okay. How much do I put in? How much do you put in there?
Well, you want the race oiled. You don't want to put the race dry.
What's the race again?
Here's the race right here.
That's the piece that the ball bearings run on.
Yep.
Okay. So do you fill that? Oh, there's a big gap of space in there. Do you fill that whole space inside this?
You don't necessarily fill it up. You just put a couple big globs in there.
Okay, so it's not like the bearings where this inside of this has to be completely packed full of grease.
Correct. There, I got a healthy amount even.
So you basically put like 4 big fingerful gobs in there.
Yep.
And then once you have that bearing in, now the wheel or the hub actually stays where it's supposed to be on the little axle.
Yep.
The
Well,
axle
we have
pin.
to put the nut on.
And now the pin is going to hold that bearing in. Now, how do you decide how tight to put that nut on?
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll snug it up, and we'll rotate it a little bit, and then snug it a little bit more, because it'll push some of the grease out of the bearing.
Yep.
So let me clean my hands, which will be...
So you basically get that nut on there just tight enough that it doesn't inhibit the circling or the spinning of the rotor.
Yep.
And if you were to tighten it and you tighten it a little bit more and then it stops the spinning of the rotor, then that's too tight and you would back it off a little bit.
Yep.
And then you put the cotter pin on to keep the bolt or the nut from changing positions from where it is right now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so you tightened it and now it's still spinning freely, right?
Yep. It was kind of stiff, and then it loosened up a little bit as the grease started working its way out as it rotated. We snug it up a little bit more.
It seems like you can't just tighten that up, do this once and say it's done. You got to tighten it, spin it, tighten it, spin it, tighten it, spin it,
Yep.
and then loosen it a little bit because you found that tightening point.
Yep. Or else the bearing is going to loosen up because all the grease is going to squeeze out of the bearing.
Because you could, in theory, take and tighten that so much that you couldn't even spin it at all, and then it wouldn't. Then the bearings aren't working because they're so tight.
Yeah, it'll over. So what'll happen is the bearings will heat up and overstress the bearing, and that might have been the case of what we had going on and why we had to replace this.
So there you went a little more tighter, a little tighter, and it's still spinning freely.
Yep. Now it's getting stiff.
So now it's starting to stiffen up. That's on there pretty tight right now, huh?
Yep. And we'll probably check this after 100 miles or so, just because that's what we do. So that's tight. So I'm gonna just take it. I'm just gonna back it off a little bit.
So you literally backed it off by a couple of minutes there. Like maybe 5 minutes on a clock dial, maybe 10 at the most.
Yeah, about an eighth of a turn. So I like that. I'm gonna run that and we're gonna try that, and then I will be ended up checking it down the road.
And normally the rule with cotter pins is you always use a new one.
Yep.
When it's in a mechanically necessary.
Yep.
And so now you're gonna pack up the, what is that called, the grease cap?
Yep.
So that all of the, once again, so that all of the spaces in this system are essentially filled with
when
grease.
the grease heats up, it'll be able to pull some of this other stuff in it and keep it lubricated.
It'll essentially melt to the points where it's not needed.
Yeah, it'll break down to a certain point.
Yeah. All right, so then you're going to put the caliper back on, and that is how you change the front bearings and wheel hub on a '97 Ford F-150.